But yeah, I mean, if you have augmented reality, this problem is like half solved, I would say, because one of the parties will eventually see what is in the real world, right? Like if you have a Microsoft HoloLens, that will probably be uh, like that. And I feel like in Microsoft HoloLens, I've seen some demos online at least. I didn't try it by myself, but I feel like some of the demos involve what you're suggesting here, like getting a remote
In
assistance
some
for,
extent, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, like getting remote assistance is one application that people are pitching quite often in Microsoft HoloLens when repairing things or so. Like so, not really sure. Like not really sure if it's an outstanding issue or if it's
I see.
something already in place. I'm not sure. I'm just thinking loudly here.
Yeah, I was just thinking. Yeah, I need to check.
Yeah.
I used Microsoft HoloLens before, but not the second version of it. It was not in a very good quality, but maybe they improved upon it. So I'm not sure regarding that sense.
Connecting to what Koray was suggesting, I think I've seen an app called Spatial, which sort of makes what you're thinking possible, but I don't know how. So once you are on a HoloLens or another similar MR device, if that enables you to actually manipulate stuff in the environment you teleport to. So you could view that perhaps, but don't know how much you can maneuver the stuff in another
I see.
environment.
I'll definitely check that.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is a concept called digital twin. It's if you guys are familiar with this concept, it's basically the idea of like bringing something physical into a virtual space with all the sensations in place. Like let's think about a case where I have my coffee machine appearing right in front of me in VR. And let's say I will use the buttons in my virtual coffee machine to bake myself a real coffee. So if I press that button on the virtual representation of that, I will probably be able to, operate the machine, and I can, in the meantime, I can also, see the process, because the sensors on board of that virtual coffee machine are eventually connected to the real coffee machine, so they can, you can have real life interactions being brought into the VR space. The reason I'm pitching this is because, what Koray is suggesting is interesting, but it's a multidimensional problem. Like, yes, we can bring in things from real world to virtual reality, but once we do that, the next thing we will be asking for is to manipulate them, right? Like maybe moving some pieces in some puzzle, or like in my example, maybe we make a copy together or something like that, or 3D printing altogether. That would be quite awesome. And it's also helpful for sharing resources. For example, Marisa can own a special 3D printer that I don't have. And I can ask Marisa, hey, can you help me with this 3D print? And you can, eventually bring that digital representation of your 3D printing machine into this room. That will be quite awesome, in my opinion. Then we can use our resources in a very, let's say, structured way, and it will be helpful for multiple parties at once. That's how I think about these things. I think in our report, the Telelife report, the paper that we are about to publish, and it will also appear in archive very soon. Jason is working on that. So we also touch base about these concepts. Like we also talk about these concepts where we talk about like digital twins, 3D printing, remote interactions, like the one Koray is explaining here. There are multiple opportunities in the future, but I would like to also switch gears a little bit from opportunities to the issues. Like, yes, these devices are helpful to us at the moment. Virtual reality device can help us to be connected like in this environment, but what is the major challenge here? Like, or are we done? Like, is this the product that we all want right now and we don't want anything new beyond this? What are your thoughts along those lines? Do you want to, for example, wear something in the future? Or do you want to, like have a wall display that, creates you all the three-dimensional visuals? What would be your preferences? Do you want invasive devices or non-invasive devices, meaning like they're attached to your body or not? Or like, what are your thoughts along those lines? Like, what are the major problems in virtual reality right now, and that should be resolved in 10 years?
I like to see contact lenses.
Contact
Yeah,
lenses, that's cool. That's cool.
that
There
would
is
be
actually
great,
a company in the Bay Area. There is actually a company working on that problem, and they made some progress. I would say that.
Cool.
They get some funding. They got some funding already in place, so
Nice.
Or
it's slowly getting there, I would say. Yeah.
or no lenses at all.
Please go ahead.
Let's say you could combine
Yeah.
somehow beaming displays with, which I guess is sort of similar to projection technology, but if you could beam an image directly into the eye, then don't need it at all.
Yeah. I like this idea. Yeah. Crossing fingers, because I made some grant applications, and that are along the lines of what you're talking right now.
Right.
So that's a great idea, I think, in my opinion, and it's very futuristic, at least to me. I don't know what
By the
others
way,
think, but...
Khan, I don't think you've realized this, but we had another member join behind you.
Oh, really? Oh, that's you, man.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, cool. You can see. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Oh, yeah, that's also another part of virtual reality. I mean, we always use these avatars. They are cartoonish. But do you want them to look like realistic, like ourselves, or do you want them to look like this? For example, you might be in a position where you don't, like, you're at home, like you're wearing pajamas or something like that, right? So, but you want to appear in a virtual environment and talk to other people. In those cases, maybe avatars are helpful. I can see that, being helpful in that
Yeah.
sense. But do you want people to have realistic avatars at the end of the day, or do you think there's no use? Maybe, I don't know. What are your thoughts along those lines? Please, Jason.
Yeah, so I think the replication of facial expressions is super important, especially in human communication. So replicating not necessarily the facial features, like wrinkles, for example, but the positive things that help us communicate are really important. But clothing, maybe clothing, I think people express themselves through clothing. So choosing virtual clothes is probably, it doesn't help you communicate that much, but maybe it expresses your style. So, that's my thoughts on that. Anybody else?
Yeah. So, but just to summarize your thoughts, are you suggesting garment design in 3D representation? It's not so important at this point. Is that what you're saying?
Replicating your own clothes is not so important, but replicating your facial features would be. Oh.
Okay. Be careful. You have a bomb. Okay. Yeah, this can only happen in virtual reality, I think.
Yeah. Hopefully.
I'm screen recording this too, by the way.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
It's cool.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? Please go ahead.
All right. So I personally, whenever possible, like to have my real face on the avatar. So some apps I've experimented with allow you to upload headshots. So it replicates an avatar of you with your face, and I like that.
Cool.
And sometimes I get so immersed in a VR experience that I think if I smile, my avatar would smile too, but this doesn't happen. So something that could replicate, like what you mentioned, facial expressions, is, I think, very helpful.
Probably there's a way out, right? Like, I'm sorry, please go ahead.
Just a very quick comment. We just got the HTC Vive facial tracker, and you can replicate smiles, everything. It works quite nicely. So, yeah, Khan, what were you going to say?
Awesome.
So I was going to suggest, if you don't want to add more hardware to your system, you can also, have some sort of algorithm that always record your voice and tries to check for patterns. Like, if you laugh, it's easy to identify, right? Like, if you speak, like, ha, ha, ha, ha, then probably you can identify that, classify that, and then you can just use that information to animate your avatar. That's also one potential means to make that happen, I would say.
Yeah, very interesting approach. I like the idea.
Yeah.
Cool.
How about you, Koray? What do you think about avatars?
I mean, I'm not happy with the cartoonish faces actually. I mean, I would really wish that I was able to see your faces at least some how close to real representation. I think that should definitely be improved, especially, for example, Marisa had mentioned to use VR in educational purposes. I
Yeah.
think, for example, I'm really using lots of facial expressions when I'm learning or when I'm teaching as an assistant. Those are probably the most important things to consider. So I don't know, but you already mentioned that that Jason mentioned that it's already possible with HTC Vive. So yeah, yeah. Other than that,
Another
yeah,
one.
you can always choose your clothes. That's okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is
So
happening.
I feel like, I feel like, when we talk about the current problems right now, it feels like these things most of the things that we are talking about can be resolved in 5 to 10 years beside the lens design, the contact lens design, I would say. Can you guys think of any other problems like about the virtual environment itself that has to improve? Like, we have never seen, for example, true artificial intelligence being present in an environment like this one. Let's say if there was a fifth person in the room, and if that person is not a person but just an algorithm, how accurate would that be? Like, how helpful would that be? Or like, do we really need that kind of, bots, or like, I don't know, like digital avatars, digital beings? Like, is this really going to be helpful to us? Jason, seems like you have a comment.
Yeah,
Please go ahead.
I think absolutely. If you could have one virtual artificial intelligence entity, you could teach everyone in the world. You could give everyone
Yeah.
if it were really on the level of human intelligence, education would no longer be an issue. Everyone would have their own private tutor with access to all information, and the whole world would be educated.
What will happen to our social fabric in that case? Like, let's say we have the perfect avatars, digital beings, and so on. Will we be disconnected totally from each other, or do you think we will at one point just understand that these are just, digital beings? Somehow we are able to tell, and we will seek for other people's presence, and like, I mean, I'm a little bit worried about, like, let's think about this. Let's say if there's a I'm sorry if I'm offending anyone here, but let's say you have the perfect friend in the virtual environment, like perfect female or something like this. Then would you go out and say like, okay, I want to meet other females? So do you see where I'm going with this? Like, I'm a little bit worried about the social fabric of the society. I mean, do you guys think that can be a problem, or am I overthinking these things? Like,
I think it depends on how humans will be reproducing at the time. If, for example, let's say humans live forever, then I don't think it would be an issue anymore. But if humans do tend to reproduce through procreation when general artificial intelligence comes about, then we'll have to be very careful of can you still have normal human relationships, and do you want to produce children, for example?
Yeah. Yeah, the families may cease to exist, right?
Yeah,
yeah, so it's hopefully. Why are you saying that? Family is a good thing. Don't you like your mother and father? I mean, I'm just saying,
Of
like,
course
it's
I do.
I might be a little bit, let's say, what's the word for these things? Like, conservative. But I feel like, people staying together is an important step, in my opinion. So, yeah, like this personalization getting to a degree where we don't need other people, it's kind of freaking me out, because, like, we will be so ignorant. We won't need to be kind anymore, right? Because we don't need anyone around us. Everything will be digital and so on. So that kind of worries me in a sense. Jason, you're about to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll still need to be kind to, and I think we'll still want to interact with other humans. The things in which it can be beneficial is the people who have, let's say, abusive families. If someone has a parent that's really negatively influencing them, to have an artificial parent, or at least a parent that could help, babysitting or teaching, is going to be a huge plus on the opposite side. And I mean, you're totally right. We'll have to be careful to make sure that people aren't, oh, why would I have my normal parent when I can have this cool, super duper superhero AI? But it may not be good in the long run. So we just decide not to use those super duper hero AIs.
Sorry, something happened with my VR display.
You're
Just
tracking?
let me reconfigure. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm
what
kind
if
of worried
actually-
about these things.
what if there are already studies regarding that sense, but what if we can replicate all of the senses in virtual reality? So eventually I'm not hoping, but I'm guessing that all things will be possible. So what will be the difference between real interaction and virtual level interaction, if you can feel everything same in human senses, in terms of human senses?
Well, one, how should I say, segue, or one thing we already see is interaction with phones, right? You have some physical tactile feedback, you have some virtual display into the eyes, right? But I think in general it's beneficial for people. It helps people stay in touch, and the more visual feedback they have, the more haptic feedback they have, the better you can communicate, right? If you can see a video versus just talking on the phone, you can see someone's facial expression, for example. So as long as we choose to use this to help communicate, to help connect people, then I think it's okay. But you're totally right. We run the risk of someone, let's say, becoming the otaku, if you know that word, which is like a person that goes away from society and just interacts with like anime characters or comics, for example, which is a problem in Japan already. So those risks will increase, and the consequences of those will increase, I think, with VR that can replicate all senses, for example.
I mean, if we achieve perfection in simulation, it's going kind of sci-fi, but at one point I think our senses won't be good enough to tell if we are in the real world or in the virtual reality. So I believe at that point, if our technology is is beyond us, let's say, I think at that point we have to change. We have to change, meaning we have to transform into something new, maybe with augmenting new abilities, evolve people, in biological means or mechanical means or something like that. It's going into that direction. You can even take it to other levels and talk about what Elon Musk is doing with Neuralink. I mean, those kind of studies have been in place at least 30-40 years at least. People have been talking about this thing, and but eventually, I mean, those kind of stuff can be,
It was my colleague leaving, sorry.
Oh, okay.
So I just said goodbye to her. And I
Say bye to her.
really love this discussion and would love to stay, but I'm so sorry I have to leave, so keep
no
me
worries.
in the loop.
No worries. Yeah, thanks, Marasa.
About any interesting updates.
Very nice to meet you,
Marisa. So nice to meet you, Dupes. I think I got too close. Bye-bye.
Okay.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye-bye. Great
Bye.
meeting you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So,
All right.
by the way, the battery of my headset is about to,
Oh, okay.
about to die. So
No worries.
I'm not sure. Maybe like 10 more minutes I can survive probably, but
Okay,
I'm not sure
okay.
if I can survive afterwards.
No problem. We can end a little bit early.
So,
That's fine.
yeah, I mean, it feels like to me, if you also agree, Jason, I mean, it feels like we covered like 80%, 90% of what we want to talk about.
Yeah.
It feels like to me. And
This is
I
really
think
good.
although we had like small number of people, I think it was a good conversation overall. I enjoyed being here and talking to you guys.
Yeah.
basically.
Same for me.
And I would totally,
Yeah.
we could probably do this for like, let's say a 2-hour block and just do it more frequently.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, we already have some sort of, gathering at UCL. But I'm not sure about the timing because it's 4 p.m. Sorry, it's 3 p.m. in the UK. So I'm not sure if it translates to, like maybe 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in Japan. That's not a time you can
Yeah.
join, I guess. So we
Well,
should
when-
probably think about maybe,
Well, I'll be in
yeah,
the US
maybe
in
like
August.
something in the morning. Oh, so then it will be much more easier,
yeah,
right? Like
it
I
would
can
work,
invite you
actually.
to these sessions, right?
Sure, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Just
yeah,
let me know.
much more easy. Yeah. So, and how long are you going to be there? Like 6 months, 8 months, or like?
That's a good
I mean,
question.
in
I don't know 100% for sure. Either 4 months and then return to Japan just for December, or 9 months and return in May. It'll depend on certain
I
factors,
see.
but
You'll
yeah.
be in Augusta University, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. We should find other grant sources to make such events more frequently, I think.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have to wait. We can just. I mean,
I've
we've got the hardware now, so I have it at Augusta as well.
Yeah, very true, but we can, recruit more people with more resources, plus we
sure,
can buy
sure.
some more equipment, right? So it's
Absolutely.
always useful. For example,
Yeah.
this facial tracking you mentioned,
Right.
if we can have that on board for everyone, that will be awesome, right?
Yeah.
So then we have better interaction, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
cool.
good. Okay, sounds good. I'll try to add some notes to the. So I recorded everything as well. I'll share the videos with later, and feel free to edit the. This should be editable by everybody. The document. So if you want to add something, feel free.
That's great.
Sounds cool. Okay, thank you guys
Okay,
all
yeah,
for
thank
joining.
you.
I will
Thank
now
you.
head back to
Bye-bye.
real life.
Yeah. Okay.
Take care, everyone.
Yes,
good day.
for me. Take care.
Bye bye.
You
Bye
too.
bye.
Bye.
Çok güzel, çok güzel.
Çok güzel. Çok güzel. Hadi görüşürüz.
İyi
Bye
geceler.
bye, görüşürüz.
Güle güle.
Güle
Jason
güle.
güle güle.
Güle güle.
Güle güle.